What's up guys, before we get into this video, I just want to quickly shout out a brand new channel that we have conjured up recently, Cobrak Cards. I've uploaded my first couple of Artifact videos on there just now. If you want to check out Artifact, Hearthstone, a bit of Magic the Gathering, that is the place to be. Find it in a pinned comment down below or at the top of this video's description. Go ahead and subscribe. I'll see you over there. But for now, let's get on with the topic at hand. Enjoy. What is up there guys, this is Cob, and in this here video we're going to touch on a topic that I have vowed to never touch on ever again, and that is class design in WoW. The focus of this video is actually going to be ability pruning. I think there have been times in the game where class design felt extremely good, where just logging in and just queuing a battleground as your class and getting to pew pew with it felt extremely rewarding. It felt so engaging. I think that where we are in the game right now is definitely not one of those times. It's not the best and brightest time in WoW's history in terms of class design. So I wanted to revisit a list of old Warlock abilities, a lot of them destruction specific, that have been pruned and purged from the game over the years. I won't be covering things that have been kind of turned into talents like Demonic Circle because, you know, that's a whole other discussion. But things like, well, Dark Regeneration, Dark Bargain, things like that. I want to work my way through the list and discuss whether or not I think these abilities were... As a quick disclaimer, I was going to make this video covering, you know, every single class in the game, but frankly, I was away from the game for a long time. Warlock has always been my focus. I just don't know enough about the other classes to really go into detail on all of them, so Warlock focus it is. So first off, we have Dark Regeneration. Dark Regeneration, 2-minute cooldown, defensive ability. It would heal you for X amount over, you know, a short period of time. I can't quite remember the duration of the buff. And it also increased your healing received by a significant percentage as well. You would oftentimes just macro it with your health stone, and it just made your health stone more effective. So do I think that this ability was worthy of being deleted from the game? Yeah, I kind of do. I think that any ability that is just automatically macroed with another spell, for example like Dark Regen was with Hellstone, I don't think it really has any place in the game. You kind of just popped it brain-deadedly in the same scenario in which you would use Hellstones anyway. That's why you just always macroed them together. It was just kind of a redundant ability. I haven't missed it one bit since it was deleted, and I'm probably not the only Warlock. So next up we have an old school Affliction Warlock talent, at least I think it was Affliction only, I might be wrong about that, Harvest Life. Now, Harvest Life was an ability that essentially, it was a passive, it impacted your drain life, and it made it a sprawling, ooey drain life. Now, this ability, even though I pretty much never used it, right, this ability, I think it was just a huge mistake to prune this goddamn ability from the game. Why? Because I don't care how viable it was. I don't give a damn how viable this talent was to use. It was just cool as fuck. And we are missing abilities that are cool as shit in the game right now. Or at least in my humble opinion. This isn't the only ability on the list that even it's not the most powerful thing in the world. Well, it could be in certain scenarios. It's not the most powerful ability in the world across the board. It's not an automatic talent pick by any means. It just felt sick. It just felt awesome to use. It felt fun to use. It made you feel super powerful. It looked sweet. And for that reason, I mean, why was it removed? Why was it removed? Why was it removed? Why was it removed? Nobody knows. Next up we have Dark Bargain. Ooh. So Dark Bargain was a old school defensive talent. You could pick either Dark Bargain or Sacrificial Pact. And what they would essentially do, well, Sacrificial Pact obviously provides you with a big ass absorb shield on like a 1-minute cooldown. Now Dark Bargain was your other option next to Sacrificial Pact. And what Dark Bargain would do, removed in Legion by the way, was the 3-minute cooldown, 100% all damage absorbed ability for 8 seconds. However, once the buff expired, you would then slowly take 50% of all of the damage that you absorbed while the effect was active as a dot, as a damage over time effect over 8 seconds, you know, after Dark Bargain expired. So it was more powerful than Sacrificial Pact. It definitely had a lot of flavor to it. Should it have been removed? Well, I always prefer using, you know, Sacrificial Pact over Dark Bargain anyway, just because of the much lower cooldown. It was 1 minute versus a 3-minute cooldown Dark Bargain. But at the same time, I mean, if you check out the level 45 tier of Warlock talents right now, You have Dark Pact, which is basically Sacrificial Pact, Burning Rush, and Demon Skin. Now, maybe it's just me, but I feel like Demon Skin is probably one of the least interesting, most mundane, boring, garbage, utterly flavorless abilities in the entire goddamn game. It's a passive that essentially just generates you a slow barrier that will absorb, up to 15% of your max health. It is way less flavorsome and way less interesting than Dark Bargain. I think that Demon Skin could just be deleted from the game, and very, very few people would care, especially if it was replaced with Dark Bargain, which is just, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like that would be a huge upgrade to just the interactivity of the Warlock talent tree overall. I definitely don't feel like it's the end of the world that Dark Bargain was removed, but I do feel like, well, it's just one of those why situations, Who asked for Dark Bargain to be removed? Who was complaining about Dark Bargain as an ability? Oh, Dark Bargain is... It's clustering up my action bars. Oh, I don't have enough fingers to press all these keys, It's like... Next up, we have Blood Horror. And without looking up this ability's exact effect, it was essentially a low-ish cooldown, 45-second to 1-minute cooldown, something like that, effect that the Warlock could apply on themselves so that the next melee attacker to strike them would be feared or horrified or whatever for 3 seconds. It was a great defensive tool against melee attackers, something that Destruction Warlocks are definitely lacking in today's World of Warcraft. I think that if Blood Horror was to be brought back into the game, it would just be great, it would just be grand. At risk, by the way, of going through too many of these abilities and just saying, oh, we should totally bring it back, I think that 1 or 2 of these would be great to be brought back into the game. If we were to bring back all of the abilities that I'm going to cover in this video, things would just get ridiculous and Warlocks would be, absolutely broken, overpowered. And we don't want that. But Blood Horror, I do think would just be an incredible addition to the class right now as it stands. And yeah, short and sweet. So next up on our list, we have Unbound Will. Now, Unbound Will was introduced in Mists of Pandaria originally, and in its original form, it was a PvP trinket that essentially cost 20% of your maximum health in order to activate. The health cost was removed later on, in further along expansions, but I'm going to focus on the OG Unbound Will right here. Now, I think that this was an amazing ability. I think that it was a little bit polarizing in that if you were kind of being CC'd by, polymorphs and whatever, you weren't really the focus of enemy damage, it was kind of OP to have this second trinket, just at the cost of some health when you weren't really taking any damage. But on the flip side, there was a huge risk-reward factor if you were being tunneled by something like a rogue, and you really needed to, pop off a demonic circle, and you just had to bite the bullet, hit the Unbound Will, and get the hell out of there. I definitely think it was really, really cool. Does it really need to come back into the game? Probably not. Probably not. I think that is fine to let this one go. If it was to come back in like a modified form so that maybe it could only cleanse stuns or something like that, I think that would be fine. It would be a lot more anti-melee that way. And a lot less generally powerful. It would also keep the really, high risk, high reward flavor of the ability. But as it was back in the days, yeah, I think it's fine to let Unbound Will slide. Next up we have the infamous KIL'JAEDEN'S Cunning. This ability needs no introduction. You guys all remember KIL'JAEDEN'S Cunning at the height of its power, where it was simply, Warlocks can cast while moving. Permanently. It wasn't something that you had to activate. You could just cast while moving everything, and we all loved it at the time. It was incredible. It was a beautiful time to be playing Warlock for sure. Does it need to come back? Now, look, some of you guys are going to hate me for this shit. Maybe this is a bit of a controversial opinion among Warlocks, but I'm going to try to be the mature... I'm going to try to be the voice of reason here, alright? Casting while moving for any caster is just dumb. I just think it's stupid. I just don't think that it should happen. I think that I'd rather see, reductions to melee mobility, maybe here and there, rather than just being able to run around while casting everything as a Warlock. Again, I think that we could really, really use something like this right now, where, Destruction Warlocks in PFA are so cast time heavy, that, having KIL'JAEDEN'S Cunning would be a dream, but I'm gonna have to agree with the devs on this one. I don't think that it was the right direction for Destruction Warlocks. I don't think that... I just think that it was the wrong move to give us this great gift in the first place and then to snatch it away, So KIL'JAEDEN'S Cunning, I'm sorry, but yeah, if it were up to me, I think that I would leave it out of the game. Next up, we have Charred Remains. Now, this one is a big point of contention among Warlocks. For me, Charred Remains was the beginning of the end for what I like to think of as, you know, true, pure destruction Warlocks, right? Charred Remains, for me, was the first big, obvious move that Blizzard made, where they were very clearly trying to take the class in a direction that I kind of thought that it sucked. They were going for the tanky class fantasy, right, with Charred Remains. So if you don't remember what it did, let me get up the tooltip. So Charred Remains in its final form simply read as a passive ability: Incinerate and Conflagrate deal 50% less damage. This was even bigger when the ability was first introduced, but generate 200% more burning embers. Fire and Brimstone can now also affect Chaos Bolt. So that last part gets people a little bit wiggly, right? So look, this was in a time where Destruction Warlocks could use their embers or their soul shards, or whatever whatever you want to call the resource for Warlocks, right, to heal. We could spend our embers for ember taps to regen absurd amounts of health, and we were extremely tanky in Warlords of Draenor, where Charred Remains was introduced. Now, what was the cost of this? We lost a ton of our crowd control abilities. We lost a lot of our baseline stuff. We were very immobile. And most importantly, it was the first expansion where basically all of our damage relied on getting off Chaos Bolts. Conflagrate and Incinerate dealing 50% less damage, I think it was 75% even when the talent was first introduced, just made it so that you didn't do anything outside of self-healing and Chaos Bolting. Everything else was just kind of boring, tedious, buying time filler. And unfortunately, I actually feel like Charred Remains, even today, is pretty much a passive, kind of undercover ability that is still kind of in the Warlock spellbook. Our Incinerates don't really do anything, our Conflagrates don't really do anything. All of the focus is on the Chaos Bolt. So Charred Remains, even though it's not in the game anymore, it's basically in the game. And if it were up to me, we just get rid of this shit completely. I don't care, man. This ability is just ridiculous. You know, I think back of the old days, right? Where literally just Incinerate Conflagrating somebody and, you know, having one of those crit would drop them by like 30 or 40% of their max health. That shit just doesn't fucking happen anymore, because Charred Remains is still kind of secretly there, you know? So even though this ability was technically pruned, what was really pruned was Ember Tap. So Charred Remains, just get rid of it. It's one of the things that I think is really wrong with Destruction Warlock class design today. All of the focus is on the Chaos Bolts, and none of the focus is on the abilities that actually feel the coolest to use, in my opinion. No one's going to agree with that, but it's my opinion, alright, goddammit. So this brings us smoothly onto Ember Tap, and maybe that's the ability that we were really talking about all along, right? Ember Tap was the ability that essentially made Warlocks tank gods in Warlords of Draenor. Should it be brought back? No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. God damn it. Even though it would help so much and make us feel really great and powerful in, you know, like more general PvP, like Battlegrounds and World PvP and whatever, and dueling, you know, it would feel great and we'd be really strong. It's not what we need. Trust me, man, it's the dark side. Stay away from it, alright? This whole tanky class fantasy crap, we just need less of that. I don't think Ember Tap should make a return, and I think that this whole undercover Charred Remains crap that has, you know, worked its way irrevocably, it seems, into the Destruction Warlock spellbook. Even if we can't see it, it's still there. I just feel like that all of that needs to go. The focus needs to not be so much on Chaos Bolts and more just on our basic tools. And now for the spell that all of you have really been waiting for. Maybe it'll even be on the goddamn thumbnail. It's not the spell that I would like to see return the most, however. And this spell is Fellflame. Oh man, Fellflame. It brings a damn tear to my eye, even just seeing the name of this sacred, sought after ability. So for anyone who just, I don't know, isn't a human and doesn't know what Fellflame is, Fellflame was basically just an instant cast, a little pew that Warlocks could kind of throw out. It didn't really do much damage, but the advantage was that, well, you could just kind of spam it. You could just kind of spam it as much as you wanted. Really low damage on the ability, but it was something that we could use and spam out while just being pulverized by melees. And that's the long and short of Fellflame. When was Fellflame removed, actually? Let me take a quick look. Okay, dude. So that's part of the reason Warlords of Draenor was just like the worst expansion in WoW history. Fellflame was removed. Good, I'm glad that we all agree. No, but in all seriousness, Fellflame, if it was to be reintroduced into the game right now, I think that it would actually have a little bit more limited impact than people are thinking. I think it would be amazing if they were to bring this ability back. I've been saying it basically since I read the patch note that suggested that it was going to be removed. It would be amazing if they were to bring this back. I don't think that it would just completely fix the spec. It's not just one spell that you can kind of throw back into the mix and, you know, everything's fixed. I don't think that it works like that. I don't want to overestimate the importance of this ability because its overall impact was quite minor. I think that what made Fellflame so cool is that it made you feel not helpless. It gave you some agency while you were getting your ass pounded by, you know, the DK and the Feral and the Rogue and the Warrior. So that, you know, I could ramble about Fellflame all day. Yes, they should bring Fellflame back. That one's getting a tick of approval. And the last ability on my list, one that we haven't covered yet, one that a lot of Warlock players might have actually forgotten about, or maybe some of you guys are screaming at your monitors right now. Probably not. Shadowflame. Remember Shadowflame? I remember Shadowflame. Shadowflame was essentially the cone of cold for Warlocks, right? You had to be super close range to use it, obviously. It applied, you know, a little bit of impact damage, it applied a short damage over time effect, and it dazed any targets that it hit, reducing movement speed by, I think it was like 60 or 70%. It was a pretty effective daze. And I think Shadowflame is amazing for a few reasons. First of all, it looks awesome. It looks awesome and therefore it feels really good to use. Second of all, it's an extra defense against melee characters. It's just another instant cast button that you can push. It was on like a 15-ish second cooldown, I think. Don't quote me on that. And third of all, well, I don't really have a third reason. I just missed this ability. I think that it was an awesome ability. I think it was introduced way back in Wrath of the Lich King. It lasted quite some time. Let me check my facts on that one. Oh, of course, goddammit, it's hard to find information on this crap now because they kind of took the name Shadowflame and the spell icon and they've like commandeered it and lobs a ball of Shadowflame at the target dealing. No, we don't mean the up-to-date Shadowflame, we mean the old school Shadowflame. Let me see if I can find some information on this. Okay, there it is, yes. Shadowflame was added in Wrath of the Lich King and removed actually at the start of Mists of Pandaria. One of the few missteps in terms of class design in Mists of Pandaria, in my humble opinion. Should Shadowflame be returned to the game? Yes, it should, goddammit. Now, I'm just going to reiterate it again, because that's like the end of my list. Maybe I've missed some spells here and there. If there's any spells that you think have been removed unfairly or unjustly for any classes or specs that you play, definitely let me know down below. But I just want to say it once again, look, I don't want all of these spells to come back. Are you kidding me? I think that 2 or 3 of these abilities coming back, and I haven't even talked about talents like Backlash or, you know, Nether Protection, old school Destruction War talents. I think that if just 2 or 3 of these things were to be reintroduced into the game, it would just make Warlocks feel delicious again. Another common thing that is kind of used as a rebuttal to me when I'm going off on one like this is, oh, Ruffle Lamaui thinks that, you know, Destruction Warlocks are weak. For the sake of shit, you know, I've said this a billion times, right? When I'm making videos like this, like, I don't care how strong or weak Destruction Warlocks are, right? I'm going to be making a video in the future where I talk about, you know, Destro in each expansion and what I thought of, you know, Destro in its current iteration and how I feel like it compares to the Warlock of today. Kind of like a history lesson on Warlocks, if you will. But look, how strong a class and spec is has nothing at all to do with how fun that spec is. And that's what I'm focusing on here, right? I'm focusing on what would it take for Destro to be so cool to play again that it doesn't matter to me that all of the features of you know, the current game or whatever suck to play. I'm going to play the shit out of the game anyway. Cataclysm is a great example of that, right? Cataclysm PvP was kind of shat on with, you know, legendaries and crazy PvE trinkets, just ruining the competitive PvP experience, at least if memory serves right. Destruction Warlocks, garbage in PvE, garbage in PvP, right? You couldn't do jack shit. I played the fuck out of Cataclysm because Destro just had so many cool tools. You were a CC god. It just felt great. I think that the class design was really on point, that expansion, even if it could have used some buffs that just never arrived. So anyways, those are all of my thoughts on Warlock abilities that have been pruned over the years that either should or shouldn't have been pruned. And I know I've missed a lot of not so juicy abilities that were pruned, you know, detect invisibility and whatever, and yeah, I think that we can all kind of just tacitly agree that these are probably fine to just be, you know, deleted from the game. I didn't even mention them in this video because, well, it's not really a point of contention for many people. I think most people agree that there's some drivel that has been, you know, combed out of the game through ability pruning. It's just a shame that some of the cool stuff had to go along with it. But alright, that is all from me, guys. As always, do drop your thoughts down below. Do keep your eye out for the next up-and-coming Iron Man video. You definitely don't want to miss it. Me and Pingu, I'm not even going to fucking spoil anything. It's just going to be crazy, alright? Don't miss it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Do have a great day. And I'm going to catch up with you guys in the next goddamn video.